Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Donut Shop podcast. I am back on with Anthony Shefferly. He's a police officer in Indiana, and has some. He's always been a businessman as well, and a fitness fanatic. So, and then he's also has a podcast as a member of Counterculture Inc., our media network for law enforcement and veteran or first responder and veteran podcasts. So all his information will be down below in the description, but we're going to get to it, talk a little bit about the career, and then kind of the whole fitness side of it. You posted a reel. I meant to talk to you this before the show, talking about energy drinks and stuff. And, you guys mentioned the guy who you clipped, and then you mentioned Bang energy drink, which actually doesn't exist. So if anyone sees them in 7-Elevens currently, that is old stock that has not been replenished. So they're probably dusty. That company's out of South Florida, and they went bankrupt thanks to Monster suing them. So for claims that they made with their energy drinks, allegedly. So they are no longer. So if you're still buying and drinking Bang energy drinks, you're drinking some old stuff. So it might be a vintage flavor.
When did that happen? When did they go out of
business? Like over a year or two ago.
Really?
I have some friends that have been photographers for their the family, and they're just like, oh yeah. They're not making energy drinks anymore.
Huh. I didn't know that.
But it was like a big thing in South Florida. They'd be at the hockey games, they'd be at they had dance squads and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So they got beat up in a knockdown drag out with Monster. So stick to the Monster if that's your thing. But it's not my thing, and it's not Anthony's thing. Apparently, my thing is coffee.
Yeah, I didn't even know Bang went out of business. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. I like collecting mugs, which my family complains about, and drinking coffee. So, but I get it. You got to drink water. So anyways, let's get back to the real topic of it. So you've been a police officer almost 20 years, right?
Yeah, just crossed 18 this past couple months ago.
All right. Well, welcome. Come to the 20. Yeah. Come to the 20 years. And so in Indiana, and so like most of us, we're not going to talk about the actual agency, which is fine. That's usually against policy and procedure. But like, where'd your career start? Or kind of like how'd you get started in the career, and then kind of work through that a little bit.
I think we got to back up just a little bit further.
Go for it.
To kind of get an idea, because like I don't know about you, but like I hate to like be the old guy that's like, these kids nowadays, these kids are just like they're soft, right? Like when we've seen rookies come out, because I don't think that's entirely the case, but at the same time, because it's a lot easier to get hired now based on interest in the job. I think that's a fact, right? Recruiting numbers are down. Not as many people want to be cops. I think that's a fair statement. When you agree with that?
Yeah.
So I think because it's easier to get hired versus like when we got on like post 9/11, that there's not as big of a driving factor as to why people want to be on the job. You know what I mean? That's been my experience. I've been like talking to dudes.
Yeah, I think some of the things too is wages just keep going up. Wages keep going up. Starting salaries keep going up. I mean, at least for South Florida, starting salaries keep going up. And then they look at these top out pays that are in the six figures, and they're like, holy crap, I can run around and be a bully. I can carry a gun legally. I can stop people for doing bad things, or if I just don't like that. And I can also eventually make six figures. Holy crap. So that's kind of thing. I mean, it definitely is what drew me in 20 years ago. But
I think that's so the big thing that I'm seeing from the conversations I've had in the past, probably 2-3 years even, is like, well, why do you want to be a cop? And people are like, I don't know. I just didn't have anything else to do. It looked like a semi-stable job. It's like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
carrying a gun around and you're doing all the stuff that you kind of just mentioned. Like you get to go and do stuff that people wrote movies about and continue to write
Yeah.
movies about.
Yeah.
It compared to, like, I look at my first major in college was secondary ed, and I'm like, compared to that, like coaching football and teaching kids is cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, having car chases and, like writing felony arrests and doing that stuff on the regular, like that's a lot more exciting. And like, there's a lot more life to be lived doing that, I think, and to do that, like, I've always thought, like, man, you need a pretty good reason as to why you do it, because the risk is also very much higher, like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, I think like when I was first, so coming out of college, I was in college from 2004. I mean, I went for criminal justice, and I was very much in that mindset. For me, it was military or college criminal justice, law enforcement of some sort. And so but yeah, I mean, there's probably people, there's a higher percentage these days that are getting into it, or I feel like are getting into it, that it's their second choice, their third choice, yeah, some other stuff just didn't work out, so I'm just going to go work for the government or something like that. And it was a fallback. Whereas the military kind of used to be some people's fallback. You're a flunky in school and you need to clean up, you need to ship out or, shape up. So go join the military. Now, some people are just like, oh, just go be a cop or
yeah,
whatever. And maybe we're having to hire them because, like you said, the shortages or
scraping the
the
bottom
lack
of the
of
barrel.
talent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So, but I think to really get into, like, well, how did it kind of start for me? Like when I was in college playing like small college football, that was during 9/11, and that was like
Yeah.
my sophomore year. So that was a real big shift for me. Like, okay, when, like, do I want to keep doing secondary ed, or do I want to go a different route, like what you talked about, military law enforcement? And I wasn't real keen on like bailing on football my sophomore year to go join the military. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna like go towards law enforcement. We'll see how this works out. If I can get hired on the back end of that, I'll do it. And if I don't, then I'll go in and join the military after and go in as an officer. That
Yeah.
was kind of my loose plan. So it was really difficult getting hired on. I don't know if you had the same experience, because we were applying to departments roughly the same time frame. But
Yeah.
like I had to apply for like 10 different agencies before I got hired. It was a grind, man. It was a good 2-year process.
I lucked out and got my second agency, my second choice, and I joke around and tell people I got the second choice because they were the easiest application to fill out. Because in college they taught us about handwriting applications,
Yeah.
practicing your handwriting,
Yeah.
making sure it's very nice and stuff like that. So I looked at these guys and I go, oh, it's a PDF. Like
Yeah.
PDF was very new, and I was like, but I can fill this out on a computer. And so I was like, oh, whoa, this is easy. So I just filled it out, printed it, and then ran down and turned it in. So the first one didn't take me because I debated them in the hiring interview, or the panel interview, because they brought up Home Depot, and I said, yeah, I'm not really big on Home Depot. My father owned at the time a tile company that was big in South Florida, but they were a mom and pop style tile company. And I was like, Home Depot created a tile section that takes away from it. You've got employees that don't know or don't care as much about the tile, whereas my dad's company, they're well trained, they know. And so I presented all these facts, and the guy told me after the interview, he goes, yeah, you're not going to get this job. He goes, I don't like the way you talked about Home Depot. And I was like, I created a well-founded argument as to why my personal opinion about this, and why I stood firm, even when you tried to change it, why I stood firm on these facts to me. We're not talking about law. We're talking
Right.
about facts of personal emotion.
Yeah.
But okay, if family's not important to you, and quality service isn't important to you, then I guess this isn't the agency for me. Sorry,
Right.
Broward Sheriff's Office. So, but anyways, I wish I could have met that guy afterwards and just kind of been like, yo, what's up? Like, why'd you feel that way? But anyways,
Yeah.
so, so yeah, you did the college thing. So yeah, it was right around the same time for me with college, and we kind of mixed it up, similar things. I was in ROTC in college, and they were, banging on my door telling me in my sophomore year, like, hey, sign right here, sign on this dotted line. And it wasn't that I was afraid. I just kind of wanted to feel out this college thing a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're kind of the same way with football. You wanted to keep kind of playing football and working on that.
Yeah, that window is very short, So if you want to play like collegiate athletics, it's really not a good idea to break it up in the middle and go do something different. And
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically cashing your chips in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I finished out with my undergrad in psychology, and then started applying at apartments. Like I said, it took a good 2, maybe 3 years. And in the process, I started my master's program in psych just to have something to do. And I was working like juvenile detention and that kind of stuff, like the juvenile system. Then I got into like the superior court system with like misdemeanor probation and some garbage like that. And
Wow.
it was, I hated it so much, but I was like, all right, this will be good stuff. I'm sure it'll pay off in the future. Plus it's paying a little bit of the bills so I can continue to go to school. And then I ended up like finishing my entire master's program, and then timed that up actually pretty well. So I graduated with my master's, which took, I think, about 2 years, and then finally got hired onto my department I'm at now. So kind of walked right into that.
That's crazy. Like, I mean, because I think about just through the years, like my department had Randall Hill, used to play for UM. He was wide receiver for University of Miami. We had we've got a couple guys that were real college athletes. Not just like I played some intramurals.
Right.
So I can't believe it took you that amount of time, which just speaks to maybe the area and the struggle and the trying to get hired at that time. But to have at least a bachelor's degree and a organized sport, nearly professional, a collegiate organized sport in your background to show physical prowess, athletic ability, and then intelligence, like two of the main things that you need. But
I mean, you go back to, and you could talk about politics, you can talk about like, well, how did it take you that long? There were instances of where departments that I interviewed for brought female officers back to test at a lower standard physically because they didn't get enough that passed. So I got passed over for some of that. That stuff is real, but like you got two options when you want to start doing stuff. And the same thing's true of sports. People make assumptions based on all kinds of stuff, especially the higher you get up with sports. And it's like, well, like, do you want to keep playing this game? Yes or no? And if you do, if the answer is yes, then you got to be so good that they can't ignore you. And that's something that my dad taught me from the time I was, 8 years old. And it's like, dude, you're just not good enough yet. So like, for whatever reason, whether it's politically or physically or mentally, like you're just not good enough for what that place wants. Now you can figure out a way to play their game and to be good enough, or you can go play a different game. Like the choice is up to you.
Yeah. I mean, the sports thing is really interesting because like I've talked about it. I used to have a soccer podcast, and we used to talk to the Division II soccer team that was in Fort Lauderdale, and we talked to these guys, and especially when we talk to like foreign guys, like guys from England. We used to have a guy on all the time, Mark Anderson, and he'd talk about the the soccer system, and soccer in the rest of the world is way different compared to America. Sports coming up in general are way different in the rest of the world than America, because we promote education so much in sports. I don't know about college football nowadays. Now it's money, but we promote getting your education as well. Whereas in Europe, they're in, if you're seen as a good soccer player, you go to these soccer academies that are underneath the big teams. They give you an education, but you're spending way more of your day playing soccer than you are doing your studies, and you get your basic level stuff. And as you move up through the system, they're picking off players, they're picking off people, and they're, when you're picked off and you're no longer a footballer in England, you're going to be a bricklayer, a tradesman. You've got all your different trades, and you just go off into that. And like, that's just what you're going to be. And you could play in the beer league at night if you want. But, it's definitely different in America, and it's, you just, yeah, I guess you have to find the right system that's going to let you focus on, because you seem like you valued, and your family probably valued your education a little bit more than your football. Because I mean, shit, you're fucking, uh, you know, you got a master's, you've got a bachelor's, a master's, you've got all that stuff,
Um, yeah, I don't. So when you start talking about that stuff and the way that college football, well, really all college sports in the U.S. are changing with the NIL and with the transfer portal and stuff like that, it's really interesting, even at smaller levels. But
yeah,
but I don't know what you got to look at is at some point, just like I think we've talked about this before about transition out of law enforcement. At some point, like when you put on a football helmet, you have to understand that you're not going to have a football helmet on for very long.
right,
In the grand scheme of your life, assuming you make it past your teenage years, like
yeah,
the percentage of time of your life that you play football is going to be very small, but it's going to be very impactful. And the stuff that, especially football itself, the lessons that you learn from that like are greater for the rest of your life than they are for your playing. You know what I mean? So that's what I told the high school kids that I coached during the playoffs. I'm like, you don't even understand the stuff you're getting right now that's going to help you in 20 years when you're a 40-year-old dude. Like
yeah,
the amount of stuff that we're teaching you in context for football is important so we can win the state title that we want to win. But it's going to be more important when you're raising kids, when you're in the job world, when you're fighting for something that's external to football. It's like that, like looking back on it now for my time, like, man, you can't even put a value on that. Like those are things I
right. Because all the positions on the team, and I love it when they break it down, watching the games, and you're watching the down wide receiver that gets a block 20 yards down. Then it's like, now this guy, the running back, scoots in and scores a touchdown. And a lot of it was based on that one wide receiver that finished through on his block, ran her out and then turned and said, I got to block this guy because the running back's going to end up be running right behind me, basically, or has
yeah.
the opportunity to.
Well,
So it's like, that's it, that rolls into law enforcement. It rolls into any job in life.
identical to, it's like what's the number one thing that they teach you when you're going through like basic SWAT? It's like your job is the most important job, because even if you're on that corner, the minute that you're like, hey, what's going on over there, and the door opens up and it's like, oh, you blew it, and this is the
Somebody
one
got
shot that
hurt.
you had, right?
Yeah. I mean,
But
I think about that all the time with that. Like, I always use the safety analogy. I'm always like thinking about with work, I'm the safety analogy. So it's like, guys are up here, I'm going to slide around and fill in
yeah,
the gaps, or watch it, or like a linebacker or a safety, filling in the gaps where these guys are missing because they're going to work right here. I'm going to just make sure that this part's covered or
yeah,
whatever.
that's
So
more or less what like a team leader does when you're back in the stick. You're kind of watching things develop. You get a detached perspective. It's just like sitting back on a too high safety look. You're sitting back, you can see everything up. It's time to run fit. Boom, you can fill.
yeah,
But even more than that, like I look at my college career, it didn't pan out exactly how I wanted, and I had to grind a lot, and I didn't play as much as I wanted to. And it was like, again, like politics, injuries, whatever, right? Or
yeah,
maybe I just wasn't good enough. But I had to grind and grind and grind to get whatever I got. And then I go into a job search where I had to grind and grind and grind. And if I didn't learn how to grind, I don't think that I would be in the seat that I am today. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's like, you never know what you're learning, and you never know what you're learning it for.
Oh yeah,
So,
exactly. No, I mean, yeah, it all makes sense, and it's cool when, when you can look at it and it makes sense. And like you said, when you're coaching high school guys and listening to them, and I know we've talked on another podcast about it. It's cool when they actually are listening to you, and like, they're like, oh man, this guy gets it. Like, they're
yeah.
listening to you, and they're understanding you, and they're like, yeah, we can relate to like what he's saying, and we trust him, and he's a cool guy, and that kind of stuff. So that's cool. I'm going to drop a commercial real quick, and then we'll come right back. Yo, what's up, everybody? I want to let you know I have a new website format. Same website, donutshoppodcast.com, but this time I'm running it through Shopify. Make it much easier to purchase items, because aside from the hats that I have up there. Donut Shop Podcast PVC hats, the blue line snapback, laser mesh, nice and clean on the inside, comfy hats. I have some other swag, t-shirts, can koozies, just some other stuff that I put up there. I'm running the website through Shopify, and so it'll make it real easy for you guys to go on and purchase some stuff and support the show. So thanks for tuning in and following the show. And don't forget, donutshoppodcast.com. Thanks. All right, so we're back with it. And so you worked it through the college career, and you got hired. I mean, you kind of covered the stuff that you kind of wanted to go through, that drew you to it, that sort of transitioned your mind from the sports world to doing the law enforcement stuff.
Yeah. So once I got hired, it was like all in new cop, 2007. And it was fun, man. I remember checking out pool cars and we're still driving Crown Vics and about wrecking those every other day. Sometimes maybe wrecking. Yeah. I mean, riding partner car with dudes from my academy class. And it was a blast, man. I remember one of my buddies that I met was like, hey, you need to enjoy the time on second. Cause we run three 8.5s, right? So B shift, that second shift. You need to enjoy your time on B shift and just run around and have fun, because everybody tries to rush to get to where they want to go, and they don't take time to kind of hang out on seconds, just being a young idiot cop, not knowing what to do, trying to figure it out. And that was that was the best time, dude. That was the best time.
Yeah. For us, it was Charlie shift. So it was afternoons was where I was put, and I was pretty much on it for 3 years. And then we changed systems to Alpha Bravo. So we just ended up with 11.5 hours, but before it was 10-hour shifts. So it was nice. And, for a young guy, it was nice because I could go to bed when I wanted to, and I could wake up when I wanted to, because I didn't have to be at work till 2:00 in the afternoon, because I worked 2 to midnight.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of the harder shifts, because that's like your cranking time.
Dude,
you're
busy.
Moving.
Yeah.
You're busy until 10:30, but then by that time, the midnight's crew was coming in at 10, and their, their thing that their lieutenant wanted them to do was just kill traffic. So they just got out on the streets, and they were just like, copy a traffic stop, copy traffic. They were just sandbagging red lights, stop signs. And they were somebody had to go back them up if they didn't have a backup and stuff. So we were kind of drained by the end of the night, and we're having to go back them up and stuff. They're already hitting DUIs, all kinds of stuff. So, it was a proactive time, and it was a fun time, because we're we're working during the daylight, and then through the transition, now everybody's getting home, having domestics, finding out their house got burglarized during the day because day shift didn't do anything. And now
that's where I'm at now.
Well, hey, that's don't we all it's so much better for our outside world to work day shift. But man, I mean, that's some of the best times doing that, because when you get to midnights, there becomes a dull time where you're now just sitting at the gas station or sitting in an empty parking lot with everybody hanging out, because it's just hope that radio doesn't pipe up, because the only time the radio pipes up on midnights is when it's something fucking crazy.
Right. I never worked a ton of time on midnights. I went from our B shift to Vice Narcotics. I did that for about a 2-year period where I did some undercover work. Nice. When I say undercover, it's like air quotes undercover. So it's like plain clothes.
Street crimes type stuff.
Yeah, we still did a decent amount of hand-to-hand. So I'd go in with CIs and do that, and that was fun. Setting cases, building cases, and then but it's amazing how quickly those investigations just start to spider web, and you can really climb pretty quick if you do a good job with it. But what's funny is I saw how the structural systems are problematic. I remember I had a pretty good investigation, and this was in probably, I don't know, 2010, 2011, maybe something like that. Anyway, buying weed, tons of weed, especially for Indiana. And it was not tons of weed, but 5 pounds at a time, getting pretty expensive for our department to foot the bill for.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, dude, what are we doing with this case, man? Like, we can't just keep shelling out thousands of dollars for marijuana, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, let's go raid him. So we go raid his house, picked him up, and then talk to him. And he's like, hey man, he goes, I deal a couple £100 a week. And I was like, okay, this is getting pretty good. Where do you get it from? And he's like, over here, like way far away from where we were at. Yeah, he was like, I can get you 400 pounds, 500 pounds, maybe more. And he had some pretty good connects, and he was trying to get himself out of trouble. And I tell my command, and they were like, too big for us, man. We can't do anything with that. And then they're like, go talk to our TFOs. And so I go to our TFO at the time at the DEA, and he was like, not big enough for us. We don't give a shit. And I was like, so what am I supposed to do with this guy? He was like, nothing. I was like, nothing. I go, nothing. He was like, just file on him. I'm like, that's crazy. But
Wow.
it's just that middle ground, man, where it was like, dude, this is where all the money's being made, is these mid-level dealers, but everybody wants to get these huge guys that I don't know. It's I was like, well, I know what I would do if I was a dope dealer. I'd roll right in the middle here. Too big for
find a happy medium.
Yeah, too big for the local dudes. It's too small for the feds. But
jeez, man, we had a really active dope unit for a number of years that made a sick amount of money, and it's been in the news and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, our guys would, and that was their thing. The supervisors were like, okay, next spider web. All right, let's go. Hey guys, you guys aren't going home. Where these guys would probably work like 24 hours in a day, or they'd just be gone. And like one guy would get it, and then they'd call and they'd go, hey, full pull, get everybody in here. We got a big fish coming, and they'd get guys flying in from New York they were doing reverses on them. So they were getting guys coming in from New York or up in the Northeast with bags of cash, and we were the drug dealers.
Yeah.
So they were just getting bags of cash. So it was even easier because our guys, they had some fake dope or whatever from the DEA, and they'd just sit in the car with the CI, and this guy flash me the cash. All right, cool. Take down. Thanks. Bye. And so they were just, we had so much money, which rolled into the middle part of my career, which was the community stuff, because all of our community stuff that we paid for was with drug money. So thank you very much. so but it's a necessary thing, and it's interesting that some agencies just can't do it because it's too much of a risk, too much. I mean, it's risky business anyways. It's dangerous. It's real dangerous police work, doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It also wrecks your personal life. If you let it, and for a while I let it. So I did the whole like stereotypical newer cop being undercover, looking like growing my hair out, getting my ears gauged, like that kind of crap. And,
oh shit.
And I don't think I have any pictures, because that was that same time frame that we were talking about. Like there's no iPhones yet. So my life kind of fell apart. And then I was like, I'm just going to go back to B shift. So I went back to B shift, cleaned myself up. That's when I started my gym, got on the SWAT team, and just kind of went from there with that. So that was,
yeah.
So
when for anybody listening, started your gym, I mean, that's, it was pretty big stuff, because was that your first CrossFit gym?
Yeah. That was, so that was like 2012. Yeah. 2012. So right after I left NARCS, on the tail end of that, I started getting into CrossFit. Was inherently just kind of good at that, because I'd always done those things with football,
right?
Power cleans and sprints and that kind of stuff. So it piqued my interest. Like I said, I got out of narcotics and then transitioned basically into that. I started doing competitions, doing decent with that stuff. And then went to CrossFit regionals, which was like way back in the day, like feels like a lifetime ago now. But it's like there's the CrossFit Games, which is, I think it's still a thing. But it was on it's on ESPN. And those guys are legitimate professional athletes. When I was doing it, it was just kind of like getting bigger. The CrossFit Games had just got into like the mainstream. And I finished like 10 spots, I think, out of going to the games, my best year. So did that, and then started doing more, because like the grassroots of CrossFit, like people always hate on it, and a lot of it's for good reason. But the grassroots of it is really like tactical. It's really military, law enforcement, first responders, firefighters love this crap. You know, all the hero workouts initially are all like, you know, OG Navy SEALs, like that type of thing. So that's where it really
Right.
came from. And it's somewhere it's got lost along the way, or it's, you know, it's morphed into something it shouldn't have been. But yeah, so like I started my gym based on that, and tried to do it for our department as a nonprofit, because Indianapolis Metro had a nonprofit affiliate called Indy Shield, and it was awesome, man. It was so cool. That's where I did my first level 1, and I was like, man, we could just basically map that and put it in place at my department. And I pitched it, and it went really well. They let me kind of play around with it for, man, a better part of a year. And I had it moving really well. I wrote up a grant to get all the necessary gym equipment, all the bumper plates and the bars and the pull-up rigs and racks and everything.
Yeah.
And so we got that all set up. And then one day, admin just decided like, hey, we don't want you running this anymore, and we're going to have this guy do it. And I was like,
Oh.
that's it. Like,
Oh.
that's it. Well, and I don't know what was behind that or what, but I was like, well, that sucks. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, again, like, I guess I can figure out a way around this, or I can, you know, if I want to play this game, I can figure out how to play it, or I can just fade off into the sunset and just go back to doing whatever. And I was like, well, fuck it. I don't need this department for this. I can run this myself in my garage. So
Yeah.
me and a buddy started our own gym, and grew it from like a hole in the wall in the ghetto to, at its highest, I think it was 250 members, and got into a 10,000 square foot facility. And it was pretty awesome. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
really stressful part-time job.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I mean, that's the frustrating thing. I mean, CrossFit has its own name. You know, I'm not necessarily aware of the franchising capabilities and all that kind of stuff and like what you need to do. But gyms are not easy to own. And I mean, yeah, of course there's a movie made about it. You know, whatchamacallit, I'm screwing up what I'm even saying. But Globo Gym and fucking what the hell's the damn movie?
Are you thinking of
Ben
Dodgeball?
Stiller. Yeah, dodgeball. Dodgeball. It's about it. It's a tough dodgeball. It's a tough thing. So but like one of the gyms I used to go to, or that when I really started a couple years ago, actually going to the gym, like I used to be like, oh yeah, I was one of those cops that like, I don't, you know, I'm a cop, you know, even though I'm a fat piece of shit, like I'm a cop, like I don't need to work out, and or I'll be fine. And you know, eventually I had to, and so I went to, but it was a pain in the butt, and it was sad when they closed. But the business model is just hard because yeah, you've got scheduled times, but they only had 6 people in the building at one time. You know, it was in a strip mall. It was a small space, but you did 3 people on cardio and then 3 people on weights with a trainer. So you were paying a trainer to be there and rotate these people through and kind of give them designed workouts for their capabilities and their goals. But you couldn't maximize because you can only fit 6 people in on a time slot. So it's like you have a ceiling as far as a business. So, and it's not like I was looking at his business plan, but eventually it came to a time where the Plaza wanted him to re-up for 5 years. And he was like, look, I don't really see myself doing this for 5 more years. So we're closing in October. And it was like, oh shit. Like, you know, and it was devastating because for me, somebody who didn't really go to a gym that often, that was now doing it religiously, I had a hard time, or, you know, I was kind of like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? But I need to keep this momentum going. And now I do have 45, but, you know, which they're able to maximize a little bit better because they can fit, the one that I go to can fit freaking 30 people in a room.
Yeah. That's the group fitness model versus the one-on-one. And it's, I mean, you know, that's CrossFit really nailed it with that one. It's like, man, we can do a lot of the same things because like generally speaking, everybody's needs are roughly the same. When you talk about general fitness for general populations, not specific people for, you know, football or whatever, like that's
bodybuilding,
that's a lot more variable. Right.
Yeah.
But I can come up with a general template, and it's going to make most of the people really good. and then we can run it in a class as long as you have good coaches. And this was the error with CrossFit, is that there's not enough of an emphasis or requirement for quality control. So like my gym, I focused a ton on movement and mechanics and like making sure that you're like moving well, right?
Yeah.
And that range of motion was good, and that like we're making you better, not breaking you apart, and like giving you a slew of orthopedic injuries, like
Yeah.
I got with competing. And this is really what separates competition and sport from health and fitness. It's like you really have to understand what you're training for, and then how to use intensity and movement in order to support that versus take away from that. And
Yeah.
what people fail to, like, the breaking point with CrossFit is like people go into it for health and strength and fitness, but they end up playing a sport. And there's a whole lot of things for sport that you do that are not healthy. Like I'm telling you, from like a career of even small college football, like I still have ramifications from that game. I
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
lot from it, but it also took a lot from me. And
Yeah.
that's where most of my stuff comes from, is that. And then plus CrossFit like exacerbated a lot of those issues in a negative way when you're playing that sport, and you don't have optimal movement patterns because your elbow doesn't extend the right way, and you're just grinding it down anyway. It's like, dude, you probably shouldn't be doing this, but
Right.
but nobody shuts it off. So that's the biggest thing with CrossFit, is like you have to have quality control and layer intensity appropriately for people. And if you can do that, you can run a group fitness model pretty well. But if you can't, you're going to wreck people. That's what sucks about it.
And that's probably one of the benefits to me not going to CrossFit, is because like I have a competitive mind, and we'll even do it sometimes at F45 where they're like, okay, we're going to do a dry race board. And it's like, you're teaming up with a person, and, we're going to use the erg row machine or the bike. And, we're going to time you, you got to get to a certain calorie, burn or whatever, that kind of thing. And so like, I am like a dumb hamster where I'm just going to push, 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 push. And I'm
Yeah.
not paying attention to my form, my breathing. And then I come off and I've now destroyed the rest of my workout. I'm speaking from practice because this happened, in the last 6 months, where I destroyed my workout because I'm just like, my heart rate, I can't get it back down.
Yeah.
And we're still being time, we're still on the clock for other exercises that we got to do. And I'm just like, fuck, all right, I just got to sit down, guys, because I'm going to either throw up or I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I need to win. I need to win. I need to win. And I think that's kind of what you're saying with sometimes certain gyms for CrossFit, like where their mentality sort of went to was maybe
Yeah.
more the competition style versus the mechanics.
Yeah. Well, and then, the whole online, the CrossFit Open, the regionals, the games, like all that kind of stuff got a ton of attention, and for good reason. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, should every person be striving to do that? Probably not. And what you're talking about is like, like taking one workout to that point where you basically crash the car. As long as
Yeah.
you're doing it with stuff like an erg or
Yeah.
like, basic body weight stuff where there's not like a super heavy eccentric or a super heavy like spinal loading, like you're probably going to be fine. And it's
Right.
okay. Sled sprints, for example, like you
Yeah.
can burn those into the ground. Like you want to do a bike erg into a ski erg into a sled sprint, and you want to run that, like run as hard as you can, go for it. Like it'll slow you down on your own pretty quick, and you'll get to see where you're at. And there's a time and place for that amount of anaerobic burn, but it's not every day. You know what I mean? Like if you do that every day, like we're probably missing some other energy systems we could be better suited for. And that's where,
Yeah.
like, if we circle this conversation back to training for the job, which was really my intent when I started CrossFit, was like training for the job. And, the whole adage of you can't train too hard for a job that can kill you is true, sort of, but
Yeah.
but you can train yourself to death. I've seen people
Yeah.
do it where they train themselves to injury, and I've done it myself. And it's like, dude, like I'm training too hard for the job that can kill me because the training is beating me up worse than anything else. You know what I mean? So you really have to treat this a lot more like like training for a sport in a sense, but the sport is not the training. The sport is what we do on the road. It's what we do when we get called to go serve a warrant. Like that's the kind of stuff that we need to be ready for. So how do you train for that when your season is all year round and you work a shift? It's an interesting conversation. So you have to do a lot more by feel. You have to do a lot more by total volume accumulation in different spots. Like like an anaerobic workout, like what you're saying, like 1 or 2 of those a week is totally fine. You know,
Yeah.
if you're doing 2, that's good. Like you don't need to do any more than that. The rest of it, you can focus on like, you know, more slower aerobic building, more, you know, movement mechanics, more strength. Strength is key to everything. You know,
Yeah.
muscle is key to everything. And you can't have too much strength. And you can't have too much muscle, you know, generally speaking. Now you can take that to an extreme too, just like with everything. But yeah, you know, like again, going back to, you know, just to keep picking on CrossFit because I don't
Yeah.
CrossFit anymore. But that's the
You got the
biggest thing.
shirt. You got the shirt on. So
Right.
you're
Yeah.
good.
This is vintage now though. So
Yeah.
I sold it. So it's all good. Um, but yeah, that was the biggest thing is like people come in every day and they want that Metcon at the end. They want that and they burn it down. And it's like, this is what feels so good. And it's like, yeah, but it's not going to last. So you literally have to put the restrictor plates on people, do stuff like focus on breathing. So I want you, okay. So example, like you're allowed to go level 10 crazy on this workout because everybody always loved to do that. Right.
Yeah.
Fine. Go level 10 crazy. Cool. But here's the parameters for today. You are not allowed to do stuff like mixed grip deadlifts, right? You're going to do it double overhand. That's going to slow you down. You're not allowed to do kipping pull-ups. That's going to slow you down. You're not allowed to breathe through your mouth. That's going to slow you way down. And it's going to force you to work on breathing in a different fashion so that like once you feel like you have to breathe through your mouth, slow down. You have to slow down. If I see you breathing through your mouth, I'm going to shut the workout down for you. And like you do stuff like that, all of a sudden you start taking that anaerobic Metcon and you turn it into more of an aerobic base, more of a strength base, more of a movement base, and you kind of Jedi mind trick them. You know what I mean? That's half the thing with fitness is you tell them what they want to hear, but you give them what they need.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of goes to me why I've gravitated more towards sticking with these group fitness or trainer type based things because I just want to be an idiot. Just tell me what to do
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to think. I can't be trusted to go to UFit and actually stay on task, not get on my phone, not be a social media meme, all that kind of stuff. Like I can't be trusted. I'm going to see somebody I know. I'm going to bullshit with them for 20 minutes. That turns into a half hour. And then it's like, fuck, I got to go.
Yeah.
Oh shit. I only did 2 exercises today,
Yeah.
and got 20 minutes of cardio. I got to go, so, I would much rather schedule myself, hold myself accountable to these classes, that I'm going to get penalized for if I don't show up and stuff. I need the accountability because I just recognize who I am and what I'm like. But I'm seeing I'm seeing the benefits from it. So
Yeah.
I just stick with it and I do it. Fuck, there was something that I was thinking about when you were talking, but I can't remember it because then now I just got started talking.
Well, everything that you just said is actually true of 99% of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's even true of me. Like I have a coach that I work with. I have trainers that I work with to make sure that I'm not getting so like tunnel visioned in so that I can see like, oh, hey, here's what we need to do to clean this stuff up. Like, man, I'm getting some lower back issues and I can't figure it out. Well, you're too close to your stuff. Like we need to separate you from that, get some different eyes on it and let somebody else handle it for you. Like I get like that,
Yeah. I know what I was going to talk about was like I wear the heart rate monitor and so that way I end up on the screen. And that's when you're talking about, like switching your breathing from your, you got to slow down. So you're not breathing out of your mouth. You got to stay breathing out of your nose. I do it to where like, all right, I see myself red line. I need to work on breathing so I can bring it down into the orange, kind of like Orange Theory or whatever, but bring myself into the aerobic and not red line killing myself. It's great to kill myself. I get more points, but I end up actually getting more points in the second tier down. Because again, I like to compete. So I want to be the top one on the leaderboard at the end of the class, every class. And I still don't know if that's because I'm the most out of shape person at the class. And that's why I'm because my heart rate's blasting through the roof or what. But
heart rate's an interesting thing, man. It's cool to track it. It's one metric though. Like you have to remember, like some people's heart rates run a little hotter than others. Right. And that's just, it could be just the way you are wired. It could be your nervous system. I'd actually be interested to see like where cops' heart rates are during training, as like first responders in general, as opposed to like general population. You know what I mean? Because I would
Right.
imagine that ours would be a little bit more elevated once we start to hit stress. Like once we
Mhm.
start to hit stress, I would imagine it would hang out more towards the top of that anaerobic aerobic threshold. But I might be wrong. So
It'd be a curious thing to add the technology to block training and
yeah.
stuff, like, because like my department, we have an indoor range that they use the tarps on wire to create different design shoot houses
Mhm.
and stuff. They'll be like, all right, guys, go to SWAT ready room and hang out, or when you come back from lunch, it's going to be totally redesigned. So it's no longer the same, left turn when you enter, all that kind of stuff. And so they work through all that stuff. But to add that to it, I don't know, just for an additional mental, because I've told them some different things, like kind of like going out. I didn't have an exit interview, but I've told them some things like, I think in block training we should add finances to our cop training,
Yeah.
because one of the biggest mental health issues, if you guys are going to talk mental health, is finances.
Yeah.
It's probably 50% of our mental health problems.
Well,
Um, you know,
well, if you associate finance problems also with divorce, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
like those
yeah,
things are correlated.
yeah.
So like those are also huge issues for us, obviously. So
But
yeah.
it'd be interesting to see from a data side, like you're saying, as we approach a scenario, as we're going through the scenario, like, it's probably not something they're that concerned about, but guys like you and me might be a little more into the educational side of it,
See, and
just to
that's
see like
yeah,
where our officers are at, and then also look at some of, if you got a guy going in there that's cool as a cucumber, you might want to also look at that guy and go,
yeah.
you fucked up?
Are you
Like,
okay?
something wrong with
Yeah.
you, bro?
Right.
Like, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not challenged. Maybe we're like, training isn't challenging him enough. Maybe this guy was Delta Force, or Special Forces in the Army, and he's like, this is fucking child's play,
Right.
and you need to make him think about some other things so that he maybe looks at this job a little differently. I don't know,
Yeah.
but again, to back to your, probably your drug dealer days in the department, the department probably doesn't have that kind of a budget or finance to be interested in monitoring our physiological symptoms
You know,
when going into this stuff.
and the kicker with that is it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't
Yeah.
take much, And I mean, there's things that I've kicked around with, like, man, we could run some real basic experiments here because, like, again, with football, they have those. I can't remember what they're called, but they're like vests that track all your vitals, right? So you put on a
Uh-huh.
vest, you put over or under your pads, and it tracks, like, respiration levels, heart rates, like all your vitals and stuff like that. You could put that on 12 dudes on the road, different shifts, split it up, and then have them wear that for a month or two, and then pull the
Yeah.
data and then correlate that with runs that you went to, things that you did, experiences you had. Like, what did your vitals do during these times? And what's your training look like? And then start connecting dots for this. It's the same thing they do for sports. And I think if we looked more at law enforcement like football, I think that you'd get a lot more out of it. I think sometimes we hedge a little bit. And granted, this is my experience being a former collegiate athlete. I was never in the military, but I think sometimes we look too hard at law enforcement as being the military side of the paramilitary,
Yeah.
law enforcement is paramilitary, but sometimes we hedge too hard on the military side of it, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, I'm just trying to think of how to apply that, or how that situation would come through. And I think it would definitely be one of those things where you'd have to have some sort of admin that could even link together with, a university, and
Yeah.
say, this is going to be this, and it'd have to be, perhaps a doctoral student that's going through and just doing a study. And then the admin would have to sign on and go, hey, we're going to give you a cross section of the department, most likely patrol,
Mhm.
and we're going to run through these things. But the ideology that we're coming, or, like, what are you trying to prove in this dissertation, or
Yeah.
this idea is mental health, physical health, so you'd have to go with, you're grabbing a couple fat ass cops, a couple in shape cops, a couple mid-range cops, people of different size, yeah. No, that it seems like a very cool study to run. I don't
Yeah.
see that our training unit would be able to run that, but like that would be on a university side, where a university says, yeah, we got with this department, this is the stuff that we found. And I'm sure they'd be able to present some very interesting stuff to a lot of different conferences, to
Yeah.
the Chiefs
Oh man,
Association conferences, and
you could
say,
make
this
so
is,
many correlations to different things and then disseminate that out. I think most academies are equipped right now to do it. They would just have to be taught how to use the technology and what to do with it. All we need
yeah,
you guys to do is collect the information. Here's how you run it with the participants. You've got X amount of participants that are there because they want to have jobs. So now you wear these
yeah.
stupid vests and we collect the data. You just do your normal shit, and then we'll pull it on the back end and we'll connect some dots for you.
I mean, because I've even had, I had AFib early in my career, and that's attributed to things like Bang energy drink, Red Bulls and vodkas, womanizing, and burning the candle at both ends. So I got AFib in my 20s, and since have not seen it. And so the cardiologist says I'm good, but I had to wear the octopus, the old EKG style, for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
I was on light duty, so I just had to wear it and carry that thing around with me. But I know even guys now that have had heart stuff, they've done it. They've even worn it at work, because these things are so much less intrusive than what I went through
Oh, yeah.
15 years ago,
Yeah.
or I wore 15 years ago. They're less intrusive, and they do probably the exact same EKG that, I mean, shit, like my Apple Watch is supposed to be able to run an EKG anyways. The Ultra is, I think, supposed to run an EKG. I wouldn't say it's the most accurate, but
Right.
so it'd be, because I'd be interested to see what, just that age old explanation for law enforcement. I'm sitting underneath a tree doing absolutely nothing, and then an alert tone goes off, and I'm now running to a house where someone's getting stabbed.
Right.
So you're 0 to 100 in the matter of a beep.
Yeah.
That it's over the course of 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, it's not good for your heart, unless you do what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's more, if you're staying in relatively good cardiovascular shape, I think it's more a risk for your nervous system, rather than your heart. But just like what you said, like this Garmin thing that I wear tracks heart rate. Right now I'm at 60. But
Jeez.
my
You don't even beat.
my last shooting that I was in, I was actually wearing it. And so I pulled that data, and it wasn't like super good, because like wrist stuff is not super accurate, but you could see
Right.
it went from like, 70, 80 when I was cruising around looking for this dude. And then I found the dude, and it spiked up to like 160, and then boom, then it leveled off. And then I was, so it didn't spike crazy, or maybe it was a little lower. It might've been 140, but I remember it spiked, it came right back down, and then it was elevated throughout the next probably 8 hours that I was wearing my watch, because it happened during the day. And it was like, so that nervous system activation was residual for the rest of the day. And that was way higher than my resting heart rate, way higher. So I was up, because like my resting is usually about 50. So I'm elevated now because we're talking on podcasts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was elevated like 70 or 80 for the rest of the day,
Wow.
into the evening. And but yeah, that's what those things do to you. Like they're gonna spike you. They might not like go crazy like 225 or anything nuts, but it's gonna spike minimum, like a pretty good spike, drop off, and then maintain for the rest of the day. So that's, you kind of got to watch that and see, like, if you are in an incident and like you do have access to some of these wearables, that if it doesn't come back down like the next day, like we really got to do some work to down regulate you, because you're still just like really revved up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'll get, sometimes I'll get like really hyper, and I get to talking a lot. And then like I'll start retelling a story and explaining things to people, and I can tell that I'm at like a heightened state, just coming off of just a crazy call, like thankfully I haven't shot anybody. But just a crazy call or a hyped call, or so you mix it up with somebody and stuff like that. And so you get off, and then you get the adrenaline dump, and you kind of work through that.
Mhm.
The other things that I've seen on my watch, because I sleep with it because it's the Ultra. When I if I binge drink, like if I'm at my buddy's, like at a bachelor party, or a drinking weekend with the boys or whatever, I can see it, and the watch tells you. It says, last night your vitals were off the charts compared to
Yeah.
your normal, where you get to
Right.
bed at 9:30 at night. You went to bed last night at 2 o'clock. You got 4.5 hours of sleep. Your heart rate was elevated the entire time, because I go into like a like a just a different heart rate because of the alcohol. And your sleep was just all over the place, because I
Yeah.
love to look at my sleep or track my sleep.
Yeah.
So that's same sort of thing, because a majority of cops do that. They'll binge drink on the weekends, or binge drink the night after work, and
Right.
stuff. And that just speaks to your physical health, and that kind of stuff. So great. Yeah, good stuff. What we can go into a little bit more of the career stuff, or we can kind of roll it into sort of what you're doing now with the app and the personal training and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, just kind of wrap up like the career stuff, I
Yeah.
guess. So to this point, right? So like did narcotics. I got out of that. I started my gym, went back to patrol. Was in patrol for another, and I don't know, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And then jumped over to our gang violent crime task force, which was, it's a
Nice.
uniform detective. And we just ran around with, basically trying to shut down local gangs, stuff like that,
Yeah.
cliques. That was fun. Got a lot of guns, a lot of chases, a lot of fights, everything
Yeah.
you would think would come with that.
Yeah.
And then went back to, and then I got a chance to go to day shift because my kids are getting older. I started coaching sports. Wanted to just do more of that, have more of a well-rounded life.
Yeah.
So
Normal
yeah,
life.
a little bit more. So then I go to day shift, and our
Were you
day
still
shift.
doing SWAT for any
Yeah,
of this stuff?
I got on SWAT in 2012, and I've been doing that ever since. So
Yeah,
that's
because it's
like a
part-time.
part-time team.
Yeah.
So God willing, I'll do that till I retire,
Yeah.
and I love that. Yeah, I went to day shift about 2021, something like that. And I've been there since, figuring it would be all chill and cool. And then, like back in July, we get that shooting, and it's
Yeah.
like, man, this is not what I expected, but here we
Yeah.
are. So yeah, man. And then in 22, I think 21 or 22, I sold my gym, and because that was getting, COVID did a number on that. And then,
Everything. Yeah.
dude, it was bad. Um, but I will say, owning a gym, I got to see right through all the COVID nonsense, like right away. I'm like, this is all bullshit, man. Like, I
Yeah.
have to be shut down, but McDonald's can be open. Like, no,
Right.
I'm not buying it. So anyway, I sold the gym because I just didn't have the bandwidth to rebuild it. I was like, I could do it. It's still standing. It's not a huge deal, but I was like, dude, I can't even fathom, like, at this point, trying to rebuild it. So I sold it,
Yeah.
and then started doing stuff online. And that kind of brings me to where I'm at now, doing online coaching, basically a lot of the same stuff that I started doing for the department, but I'm still doing it now for cops. I do one-on-one training, all remotely, personal programming, personal nutrition plans, mindset, motivation, accountability, like whatever you need with that. So that's all built into it. And then I have the app that I just dropped, which I'm super stoked
Yeah.
about, and I'm getting a lot of good reviews on.
Sweet. Yeah. So what's the app called?
It's the Heroic app, and it's not on the App Store, but you can get it through my Instagram. So if you click the link through that, there's a login for it. And then if you message me, I will just give you a code, and you can get a whole bunch of money off.
Oh, okay. But so because it's not in the App Store, so does it have like a cute little app, or
Yeah.
that goes on your phone?
Yeah. Once you
Oh, okay.
download it, it does. Yeah. It just
Oh,
isn't.
okay.
Yeah. It's just not on the App Store. So
Oh,
yeah,
why do you do that?
I don't know.
So many hoops.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's a lot of hoops and pain in the ass. So how do you find time? How do you find time to, like, say, manage all your, we'll call them members, or all the people in there? Like if you're working, if you're doing some personal planning for them, like,
Yeah.
how do you find time to do all that stuff?
It's not, so I don't take, so you talk about the trainers that didn't have the ceiling, right? The low ceiling for volume.
Right.
And that's what I found too. Once I started doing like one-on-one, like because of all the other stuff I'm doing, like I'm still active law enforcement, obviously. I'm trying to coach my kids on top of that. And so my ceiling for one-on-one training is low. So I usually only take about 5 or so at a time.
Oh, okay.
To make sure that I can,
Yeah.
that I can manage like your program and, whoever else I need to, and I'm not dropping the ball and like delivering a shitty service.
Yeah.
So I keep that really low. And then the app is more of a general based program that's like, hey, there's like 7 different programs in here. You pick which one you want. And then there's a community feed that if you got questions, you post questions. If you got like a lift you want eyes on, like you just post that. I'll give you feedback on it. So it's more of just a low barrier, like high volume approach to get as many people like fit as we can, because that's always been my main goal. Is like since I started doing CrossFit and started training cops in strength and conditioning, it's like how do we make this job more in the realm of like athletics, strength and conditioning, like get dudes in shape. You know what I mean? Like we don't need to be like Olympic athletes, but we got to be in better shape than we are. And
Yeah.
and then how can I create something that is going to be a lower barrier so that we don't have to we don't even have to have the conversation of like, well, I don't have any time, I don't have any equipment. It's like, well, cool, I have an app that
Yeah.
has a program that takes you 30 minutes and it's nothing but your garage and no wait. It's in
Yeah.
there, right? So all you got to do is
Yeah.
get in there and get that. Well, I can't afford it. Well, it's like $17 a month. So if you can't afford that, like I don't know what to tell you. You're clearly
Yeah.
lying to me.
We're all out of ideas.
Right.
Fine,
Oh,
fine. Just
and if it is
that's
too expensive, it's honestly too expensive. I will give you a code and we will make it cheaper. Like that's what
yeah.
I can do.
Yeah.
So we have no barriers to entry here. Zero.
If it's too expensive, let's start I got a guy that's a financial guy that can help teach you a little bit better how to spend your money. Um,
Right.
yeah, I mean, because that was always my problem going into it was, um, you know, whatever, not shame, but just fear of not knowing exactly what I was doing, looking silly, having some Adonis walk up to me and tell me, hey, you're doing it wrong, dude, or whatever, and then just being ashamed or whatever. So it was just one of those things like I'm gonna be afraid and I'm just not gonna go, because if I just don't go, then I'm not gonna feel bad. But it's my back was always screwed up because of stuff I did on the job, and then I was always afraid. I always thought that deadlifts and RDLs were going to hurt my back, and I was never going to be able to do it. And now the days that we have RDLs, I'm super excited to do them. And I'm grabbing the Olympic plates and stacking Olympic plates on there and all excited because I did 155 or whatever it was on the Olympic plates on a Romanian deadlift. And I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm like, my back doesn't hurt and I'm doing it the right way. So it feels good. Get out there and get yourself fixed up because you can,
Yeah.
I,
Well, and
I was hurt.
there's stuff like to pull out of that. It's like, well, the number one thing that you got to remember when you're going to a gym is like everybody's worried about what they look like. Everybody, doesn't matter what level of fitness you're at. Nobody wants to look like an idiot. But at the same time, we have to remember nobody really gives a shit about you. Like,
No, they really
get over
don't.
yourself.
No, you're right.
Everyone is
You're right.
so involved in themselves,
Yeah.
and that's not good or bad. It just is, right? So
No,
everybody's
it's
concerned
truth.
about their own workout, like especially even in a group class, like the F45 class you go to. Sometimes
Yeah.
you might do something. I know I did this in CrossFit where it's like, man, I dropped a bar, or I screwed a lift up, or I fell off something, or I looked stupid, or I, whatever. Nobody noticed. The only person noticed
No.
was me, and I was worried about what I looked like. But everybody else is just worried about their own shit. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. The only people I have to worry about is the coaches coming over and going, hey, come over here. And
Yeah.
and and those are the things that I like. They've told me things like, like on the RDLs, they're like, break the bar, bend it into your shin, bend it in from your arms so you're engaging your lats. So I remember it all the time, and it freaking makes a huge difference on my form and on the workout that I'm getting from it. So, those kind of things are good. And that's why you need somebody there to watch you,
Yeah.
not just going, by yourself and thinking you know what to do. Cause I used to watch workout videos on ESPN early in the day when they were all on the beach in Hawaii and think that I know exactly tell me, you know what I'm talking about.
Those are legit, man.
Those were
Yes.
legit videos back
Yes.
in the day. We were kids and we watched them. But yeah, so I think in retirement, that's what I'm probably just gonna do, a basic level, like Planet Fitness type thing, just so I can do some focus work. But and then maybe get some like additional cardio, but and then maybe a fight once in a while. But the F45 stuff, it kicks butt for me, and I'm just gonna do extra days doing that and that kind of stuff, and then maybe get on the app.
Yeah, do that. Definitely do that.
Do the app.
Well, the cool
But
thing
yeah,
about that, like, even if somebody's like in your exact like situation, I'd say, yeah, jump on it, check it out. There's always a 7-day free trial. If there's stuff in there that you think you can use to augment F45,
yeah,
then use it, and it gives you other options to, look at other programs, learn about different stuff. That's the big thing for me with the way that I'm running this is like, I really like doing more educational instructional stuff. That's what I was really good at with my gym, is like getting hands-on and fixing a deadlift. Now I can still do it with the app, with the live stuff that I do inside of that. It's just a little bit different because I can't physically be there, but I can look at your lift and I can give you a full breakdown of it. It takes me about 2 minutes, so like we can do this, a lot of the same stuff, even though I can't be there physically with everyone.
Yeah. My wife learned a whole lot. She met a guy that did some really big powerlifting at UFIT, and nice people, and we've been friends with them. But he taught her a lot of stuff. So she used to always critique me and try and fix me and stuff. And then I've
It's
gone and
always good
worked out with him.
when your spouse does that. It's always really good for relationships.
No, I know. And I'm like, babe, like I'm not holding a weight. So obviously I'm going to arch my back a little differently. Like if I'm holding a weight, I can tell. And she's like, I don't care. You should even be demonstrating it properly to me. So she kicks my ass. She's so stern with me, so hard with me. But going back to some of the mental health things and with law enforcement and talking about like the level that we get at, one of the things that I think I'm curious to see is, and it's nothing that I've tested a baseline, would be cortisol levels with me from work, me
Oh yeah.
versus 6 months down the road or a year down the road, me,
Yeah.
being that I'm 43 years old. I mean, I'm not old and going off to pasture. Like I'm going to try to work out 4 times a week and keep all this stuff up. So I'm curious to see what non-cop me, how I adapt to that, or how my body changes, because I'm pretty sure that my body does different things from being a cop.
Yeah, maybe. So I would say, if you're interested in that, get some blood work done. You could, or with cortisol, you could do a saliva test. There's a lot of different ways you can test cortisol to see where you're at. Cortisol is interesting because it's not like everybody thinks it's like the boogeyman. And in some cases it can be, but like you should have high cortisol in the morning, and it should kind of progressively drop throughout the day, and then it'll peak and trough with different stress loads. Like if, like, say I go to work, right, at 6 a.m., my cortisol should be really high, and then it starts to drop, and then I go to work and I get into a fight with somebody, it'll peak and then drop, or I shoot somebody, it'll peak and maybe stay, so like but it should
All in a day's work.
it should go down and basically like crash out at the bottom of the day. At the end of the day, as the sun goes down, you go to sleep, and then through the night your cortisol raises, that tank gets full again, and then as it peaks is usually about dawn if you're on a normal sleep schedule, and it should wake you up at its height, and then you go through the process again. So the issue is not high cortisol. The issue is having high cortisol where it's supposed to be high and low cortisol where it's supposed to be low. And then if you get that chronic exposure, like again with the shooting example, right, that heart rate elevation is probably correlated with high cortisol as well, right? Like just your nervous system is pegged, so everything's going to be like at that level where you're going to be really sympathetic, which equals more high cortisol exposure for longer. So that chronic exposure to the cortisol, that is what becomes problematic over time. So if it's moving how it should, that's cool, that's fine. But if it's chronic exposure and it stays elevated where it shouldn't, that's no good, because then you're going to drain it, and then you're going to get, stuff like HPA axis or adrenal fatigue, is what it used to be called. That's also where you see issues with hormones like testosterone and sex hormones will start to tank, because if your cortisol stays up, like you can only tap that well so long before it basically crashes out. And then you just can't, like, your cortisol doesn't work anymore, or doesn't work the right way. And then you have to pull reserves from somewhere, right? So you're pulling it from hormones. So that's when your testosterone just starts to really take a dump, because you're just using it all up. You're using it all up, and you're never figuring out how to downregulate. So that's kind of how that process kind of like negative feedback loop, and then everything kind of crashes out. So anyway, if you wanted to test that, I would suggest getting a test now and then doing that same test again, whatever it is, in another 6 months,
6
12
months or
months.
something.
Yeah.
You think my regular doctor would test that?
I think if you go to a regular doctor, my experience has been they'll be look at you like, why would you want to do that? Who cares?
Yeah, no, mine definitely does that. He looked
Um,
at me and goes, "You're 43 years old. What are you dealing with testosterone stuff?" Because I'm doing the HPTRT,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing testosterone. I'm on the pills.
Okay.
And he's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I go,
None of your business.
"Do you want to see? Are you going to prescribe it to me? No. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
do you want to see the difference? Because I was at 330, and now I've been taking the pills for 6 months, and I'm at 910. So you there's something different. Well, what do you need a 900 testosterone? I'm like, look at you. I don't care what you have to say. Like,
Right.
I don't know. Like, I'm like, I just, the guys on the podcast told me that it needs to be in the 900s. No, I'm just kidding. but but it feels good to get it back higher.
Yeah. Oh, hell
So,
yeah. Well, especially at 43. But if you're already doing that, then I would just go to the guys that you're working with for the hormones already and be like, hey, I want some
yeah.
cortisol numbers run. And they'll be
Well,
like,
it's
gotcha.
Phil. So I'll
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
Phil can do for me.
Yep.
Phil from
Yeah.
HP TRT.
Yes.
I'll probably squeeze a commercial in here somewhere in the podcast. I'll find a spot where we took a breath, and I'll drop the commercial in there.
Do it, because I'm on that show like every other week. So
I know, I see that. You're like his semi-permanent co-host.
Right. Every time he texts me, I'm like, yep, I'll get on, no problem.
That's good though. It's because
fun.
like he texted me one night and was like, "Hey, can you get on?" Because for those of you that don't know, you can check it out on Anti-Hero Broadcasts YouTube channel. It's HPTRT, Human Performance. So Phil, one of the owners, has a podcast, and Anthony jumps on it a lot. And yeah, he had me come on one time because I was like, look, let me tell the story of a guy that doesn't do injectables or doesn't seem like he has to, because I like to be a test dummy. I like research. So I'm like, okay, look, if I can start at the lowest level, a pill that says this is supposed to promote testosterone in my body, then I'm going to take it. I'm going to try that first before I go to a proven factor of,
What is it? What do you,
ingestible.
I mean,
I'm
do you mind if
taking
I ask?
eclomifene citrate
Oh, okay. Yeah.
every other day,
Yeah.
which is supposed to tell your testes to produce more testosterone. And then I'm taking the de-estrogen one, the one that knocks my estrogen down.
Yeah.
So I'm taking those two pills. I take the one twice a day, and then I take the other one every other day. And yeah, like I said, after 6 months, it popped up 600 points. So, and I'm probably due for like a 9-month blood test just to see if things are still in the correct way or still the way I want it. And if they are, then off we keep going. I keep doing it. So, but I got on his show the one time to kind of tell that story and explain that from an apprehensive, guy, talk about it and then he asked me to come on another time. And I'm like, Phil, what do you want me to talk about? Like, I don't have Anthony's experience in CrossFit.
I don't have any more material.
Yeah, I'm all out of material, bro. And then I sent him Chris, the guy that has Canine Tambo, Chris Bingham. I sent him. I go. This guy Chris wanted to get on the show, and he takes testosterone and has a lot of experience in testosterone. So I go, you should talk to him. So he's like, oh, perfect. So spread the wealth. So you get it. Phil gets a lot of people, but otherwise he's got you, trainer extraordinaire. Do you have licenses for personal training?
Do I? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
actually technically still CrossFit level 2 certified, and I coach under the banner of Conjugate Tactical right now. So yeah.
Okay. It's because I know there's like, physical or whatever, like different personal trainer certificates, and
Yeah, some of those are, I mean, certificate's a certificate as far as that goes.
it's like getting a CPR. It's like getting a CPR card,
Kind
like
of.
I got a CPR card. Yeah, but
Yeah,
you have any clue what the fuck you're doing?
right.
And will you actually
Well,
help someone out?
and that's a lot more important for in person than it is for online, and that's where you really should do your homework when you're selecting like stuff to follow and people to follow online, because some
Yeah.
people know their stuff, and some people really are just in shape, or they have a six-pack and they're saying, hey, I got, like, we can all get shredded and you can look like this. It's like, who the fuck are you that you can
Yeah.
say this? um
Yeah.
Honestly, the biggest thing for like that I think benefits like my ability to coach is my background in like psychology and
Yeah.
understanding like behavior change, and because really it's like, dude, you can squat, press, pull, run, sprint, and do that on repeat and get a good workout. Like, you can figure it out, and you can even now in the time of AI, like, it's not hard to put your demographics into Chat GPT and say, give me a base program that I can lose weight. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, that's easy. Anybody can do that, and you can do it for free.
Yeah.
So why do you even need a trainer? You need a trainer or a coach in order to effectively change your behaviors, because Chat GPT can't do that. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the thing, that you can get the whatever information you want. It's almost too much now, but you can get it. And we can take that problem of like, I don't know what to do. Okay, well, ask Chat GPT, it'll tell you. Problem solved. And it'll be good enough to get the job done. It won't be perfect, but
Right.
it'll tell you. So now the bigger issue is, how do you take that information, apply it to your life, and change your behavior so that it'll work? That's the biggest thing, so programs are
Shit.
programs, but
I mean, that's one of the things that I love. One of the reasons why I like talking to you so much is with the psychology background, you've got so much more thought into a lot of this stuff, and a lot of that with working out, with the physical fitness stuff goes into our law enforcement too, because a lot of times what we're trying to do is affect change in people's lives, get them to make better decisions of drug abuse, beating their spouse, beating their kids, how not to get into a argument at a store or a restaurant and stuff like that. You've got to be a bit of a psychologist sometimes, or at least the officers that can be successful.
right.
Although you have had shootings, but sometimes stuff happens. The officers that are successful are the ones that can sort of not master it, but apply it, the psychology better.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I had fun. I loved talking to the crazy people, the borderline crazy people. I love talking to all them because I could talk to them all day,
Mhm.
which is, I guess, why I'm a podcaster now. So, but yeah. All right, cool, bro. I mean, like I said, we could do this all day. But that's probably a good spot to wrap it up, unless you got anything else to add with the app or anything like that. I'll get the links and everything from you, for it to share in there. And then obviously you can follow Anthony on social media. You don't come out with podcasts as often as Boss Man Tyler would like you to, but you
Well,
come out with
yeah.
podcasts, or at
Yeah.
least the podcast I did with you sat for probably 4 months.
Oh, I know, man. So that was right when I was trying to build this thing out. So I started
Yeah.
building it out. I started working with the company, and I was like, man, I don't have time to do a bunch of podcasts right now. Plus, I
Yeah.
was coaching football, and like,
Yeah.
that's all like, behind us now. So hopefully I can get, I've still got one sitting that I got, that I
Oh
got.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got one sitting, and then I plan on getting back into it as well.
Oh, with these,
Yeah.
I love scheduling these, and sorry for all of you on the other side listening to this if you're still watching. These ones I love because I can literally just take it and throw it, and I can just throw
Yeah.
it out. And even if I want, sometimes I even use the recommended reels that it creates. Some of them get a little messy, but I'll ask it to screw around and show me what reels it thinks will work, and then all right, maybe I can play with it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, not to say that I phone it in on these web interviews, but some, I mean, it's a lot easier than setting up my equipment every
Yeah.
time and going to a Dunkin' Donuts and freaking setting up all my cameras and color grading and editing and all that kind of stuff. I love doing it, but these sometimes are better. At least when I'm in need. So yeah, it's like, come on, bro, just put them out. Just interview people. You got the setup, nothing changes over there. You got the Thor hammer, the Milnar. You got somewhere back there. You got a Die Hard Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah, it fell over, but yeah.
Oh, it fell over. Okay. So, all right, bro. Well, stick around. We got to make sure this whole thing uploads. And did you have anything else to say? I just kept talking.
No, man, just check the app out, 7 free days. And then we do have a basically a challenge for the first of the year, 28-day challenge to kind of get people rolling into training with some basics and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll give you the code unless you want me to promote it now.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Okay. So,
whatever.
So yeah, just click the link
in the description.
Yeah, click the link in the description to download the app. And then if you use Heroic 26, that'll get you a whole year, 12 whole months for $48.50. So like, again, if you can't afford that, like there's bigger issues.
You need to do a financial class.
Right.
And in conjunction to working out, just get out and start running. Jelly Roll can do it. We can all do it. So I listened to that. I listened to that episode with Jelly Roll and Joe Rogan. It was pretty inspiring. It was kind of interesting. So, all right. And I'll see you on the other side. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks, Anthony, for coming on the show. We'll be right back.
Calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.